Hey guys, good news, I am going to shave today, so the next one I do after this one or the one after that, I might be clean shaven, so y'all at least recognize me. I was going to continue the theme of giving, and I'm just going to do hopefully a short segment here, but when I gave some thought to giving and did a couple of messages on it, one of the things I researched was what percent do Christians in America give to the church? And that I think would include other organizations that are not like a church, but like a Christian mission type deal. And the number that was consistent was around 2.5%. So if the tithe, which we'll get back into later, if the tithe is kind of the minimum, then the majority of Christians are given much less. And another shocking number is that of that 2.5%, 2% actually ends up in the missions. Well, that might be national or international missions, but things that where people are actually touching the helping the poor, orphan ministry like I'm doing, and missionaries and things like that. And it's sad that missionaries have to basically, and traveling preachers and stuff that are preaching the gospel, have to kind of go around and beg churches for money. Can you give us a little money? And I had an issue with some of that way back. I just felt like the church wastes a lot of money. Do we really need a multi-million-dollar complex for 200 people to meet in? No, you don't need that. As a businessman, you need what you need. You don't need like all this excess to try to get somebody to come or whatever. And then when you do receive the money, we got to be good stewards of it. And so one of the questions I have, if the average is 2.5%, and it also says that basically 10% of the congregation makes up for 80% of the funds, then why do people not give? And so I'm trying to encourage us that giving is a good principle and it'll bless our lives. But I would like to hear from y'all. Why do you think people don't give? And if you've had situations where you didn't feel like giving, why? And I can tell you kind of what I think. I think, one, a lot of people basically just mismanage their funds and they don't feel like they have enough. I think that goes in a couple things. In certain places where like in Kenya, where we're doing the Bible schools, or in Ukraine, or places where there's not a lot of excess money, people don't feel like they have enough to give, and you have to dig deep to give. Then in other occasions is people get excess money and they just take it to excess. And my lifestyle has increased dramatically as my income has increased. But I will say my giving has increased disproportionately, to my lifestyle. But a lot of people don't give because they don't structure their life to give, and a little bit of stewardship can change that. And I'll just give some examples. A Starbucks coffee costs like $4.50. Bottle of water at the convenience store, $1.50. You can buy a case of bottled water at Walmart for $4. But people go in and there's a lot of places. Like if I would quit dipping Copenhagen, I would free up a lot of money that I could give. If with a little effort we could, if we thought it was important. And that leads me to the next thing. I think because of the lack of appropriate teaching, people don't realize the importance of giving, not only for the kingdom, but for their own lives. And the other reason, which I think is sown really bad seed into giving, is there are people out there that just are charlatans. They lie, they take advantage, and many of them have been exposed, a lot of them on national television. They preach, a gospel that's not really the gospel. It says, if you'll give me $1,000 today, God's going to meet your need. And poor little old ladies like my mama would believe it, and maybe send, $1,000. But that's not the way God does it. And so people see that and they don't trust. I have found, since I've been doing this orphan ministry the last, 6 or 7, 8 years, that people who you wouldn't expect would give, probably that have never given to church or anything like that, will give to something if they feel like they know where the money's going. But they don't want to just give to something, that 90% of it goes to somebody's pocket and 10% actually goes to the mission work. And so I have people that give to me that probably aren't even Christians, but they like what I'm doing, and I don't take a salary. I pay my own way, and I pay most of the expenses of the ministry. I do have some help when I ask for it, but and part of the reason I do that is because A, I have had the resources to do it, but B, I got burned, and I got burned like pretty bad a couple of times. And I'll tell 2 of these stories, 6 minutes. One, I didn't really get burned; it just put me out. But I told you that the tithe was something I was working off of for the first, 10 or 15 years of my faith, and I would still do some stuff, but mainly I made sure I did the 10% of whatever income I received. I wrote 10%. That was like written in stone. If I get this gross, I write 10%. And I gave at that time all my money to the church. And then if somebody needed a little help or a mission trip or something, I didn't even think about that. I just didn't count that. But I would help, but it wasn't excessive. But it was some. It was there. And when I was working for Pfizer, I ended up doing really well, and they had a pretty lucrative bonus structure. If you made your number, you could get a pretty good check. And at that time, it was 10% for everything over your budget. So they give me a budget. This was the first year. They give me a budget of like $1 million or 1.2 million, and I did like 1.6. That was like 400,000 over budget. So I got a $40,000 bonus check. Now that was the gross check. I actually got about $30,000, but I got 40. So I sat down and I wrote a $4,000 check to the church that I was involved in at that time. And I will say it wasn't New Covenant. So for those of you that are covenant people, and I wrote it on a Sunday, and I came to the leaders meeting on a Monday as a guy was leaving who had just installed a $4,000 copy machine. Now, we're not a printing business. We made a few copies, but we had a copy machine. But that, in my mind, that was a year's worth of work, and I tithed it to the Lord, but my feelings were hurt because I felt like my tithe went for a copy machine that we didn't even need. And I'm aware that I want my money to go where the rubber meets the road. I understand and believe in and support people who are serving in the ministry. The worker is worth his wages, and I have given lots of money individually to missionaries and traveling ministers, and still do. And I know part of the money that I give to the church goes to pastor salaries and that, but there is a problem with churches committing excess to stuff that's not kingdom. Do you really need a $4 million building to house 300 people? No, you don't. That you meet once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week? No, you don't need that. And part of the thing I liked about the house church I was involved in with Mike McCarty is we could give more money to the kingdom than big churches because we didn't have any overhead. And it's that way in business sometimes. Sometimes your overhead, it takes away your surplus. It looks like you're doing good, but really you don't have anything left at the end of the day. You could actually go broke looking like you're doing good. And pray to God I don't. But at times I think I had more money when I was smaller because I just didn't have any overhead. And so that hurt my feelings, but I couldn't react too much to it because I gave it to the Lord, but it did strike me, is that right? Is that where I wanted my $4,000? So I've never written a $4,000. I've never written anything close to $4,000. I ain't even never probably written 1,000, and And I had bills and I had things that, I could have put that money, but I wanted it to go to the kingdom, and it didn't. Because I just don't believe the copy machine is a way to spend my bonus check, tithe. Well, a few years later, or a number of years later, when I got involved in the orphan ministry, I got involved in trying to help another ministry that was doing kind of what I believe God gave me the vision to do. And I kept getting all these requests for money, and I was committed to what God told me, so I was committed to trying to, and I dug deep, and I raised some money for the ministry, and I gave money to the ministry. And in about 3 years, out of my pocket, I had given about $80,000. And I had probably raised, 20 or 30, for the same ministry, for camps and different things. And then later I found out that most of the money that I gave went to this guy's salary. It never got to the project that it was supposed to. And that was pretty offensive to me because, I dug deep. I gave more money than I ever thought I could. And the guy was a charlatan. And I tried to contact him. He wouldn't talk to me. And it's sad because he was taking advantage of people all over the world that, people want to help orphans and want to give to kids, but then he's, putting it in his pocket first. And I understand what he's doing is wrong, but basically, if he had a salary of $250,000 a year, which I think what it was in the beginning, because every month he always needed $25,000, or so he's spending $5,000 on the mission and putting $200,000 in his pocket, but he's raising it all under the pretense that it's going to the mission. I've supported, I'll just be direct, I've supported Ron Gray, not exclusively, but I've supported Ron Gray directly for years. I have never expected any of my money to go. I've supported Ron Gray, and I'm sure and believe that part of what I'm supporting, or most of it, might have been part of his salary, which I believe in. But if Ron sent me a message, and he has, and Andy has, I got a project coming up, and I need, like Andy, a couple of times I've given money to Ghana. Ron's had things, and he'll put out, I need raise, and I'll give to it. Well, I know all that money's going to the project, but my monthly donations to ministers, I know it's part of their salary, and that's righteous. But I don't like the deception of, we're going to use a project to raise our salary. And so I got burned. And what I didn't do, and what I encourage you not to do, would be stop giving. I didn't. I stopped giving to that guy. But the interesting thing in both scenarios is that God still blessed me increasingly, even though I gave probably in a place I shouldn't have, but I was ignorant. I did it in faith. And so I want to encourage you, you got to let go. There are charlatans. You got to let go of that. God still wants us to give, and we need to ask the Lord, what's appropriate? Where is it appropriate? What do you want me to do? So we'll go forward. I'll tell some other stories how God helped me through giving. But at this juncture, I just want to encourage you that giving will bless you, and it will bless the kingdom. And if Christians would give, we could probably solve most of the world's hunger problems and dental problems and medical problems, because there's millions of dollars that are not sown into the kingdom because people, for some reason or another, and I would like to hear what you think other reasons are, don't want to give. All right, I'll talk to you soon.